This story is about a wounded space technician who laughs while bleeding out in an alien OR. But he's not losing his mind. He's hiding a secret that could expose a galactic conspiracy. The mining rig Vega Station 9 didn't explode quietly. It ripped apart with a thunderclap no vacuum could fully muffle. Plasma vents buckled, cryopipes ruptured, then came the flame, swallowing everything in 3 decks. Tech specialist Jake Landon had exactly 4 seconds to live when the shockwave slammed him against the maintenance bulkhead. He woke up, somehow still tethered to his suit, air hissing, ribcage screaming, a smear of red blinking across his visor. He'd done it. He hoped. Probably. The pain was exquisite. Real. He laughed, a short, wet bark of disbelief. The emergency beacon trilled once, then flickered out. The auto-scram kicked in moments before everything went dark. Jake regained consciousness floating inside something too bright, too sterile, and entirely too lavender-scented to be human. He was suspended in an anti-grav cradle, blue biogel clinging to his skin. His chest felt like it was made of broken dinner plates, every breath like a hammer tap. But more than the pain, it was the quiet that unnerved him. No alarms, no shouting, no human cursing. Vitals destabilizing, blood pressure critical. Pulmonary readings incongruent. The voice was high-pitched but distant, cool, almost bored. Jake chuckled, breath rattling. If this is heaven, the color scheme sucks. A blur hovered above him, 6 limbs, metallic slate skin, enormous pupilless eyes. Its long fingers moved without tremor, adjusting the synth wraps that sealed his abdomen. Heem is displaying mirth while hemorrhaging. The being didn't direct the comment to Jake, but to the 3 others looming at the edge of his field of vision. Heem is human. This may be a defensive neurological aberration. Induced sedation, another replied. Jake blinked sluggishly. You guys ever hear the one about the reactor tech and the toaster oven? They stared at him. Never mind, it's a slow burn. A spike of pain cracked through his ribs. He winced hard, wheezing. Still laughing, though less now. Less out of humor. More out of the absurdity of still being alive. Stop the laughter reflex, it is causing further damage. Too late, Jake croaked, eyes fluttering. Already broke the punchline. One of the surgeons, a taller one with jade plates where a human would have hair, paused mid-injection. It turned to its superior. I recommend neurological scan, possibility of viral infiltration or cognitive degeneration. He is leaking 4 liters per minute and has 3 bone fragments embedded in his right lung. Focus. I am focused, Jake whispered, and grinned wide enough to pull the stitches along his side. That's the problem. The Yakar Prime wasn't designed for emergency triage of Humes. It was a surgical vessel, used mostly for Alliance diplomats or, more often, for off-world biology studies. But when a distress beacon from a human rig went live near Sector 12, they diverted course without hesitation. Their records of human physiology were adequate, their grasp of human psychology was lacking, especially when Jake, bleeding out and grinning like a lunatic, kept throwing out muttered jokes between gasps. One of the assistants finally asked, "Why is he laughing while bleeding out?" No one answered. Jake's mind swam, not from blood loss but from the adrenaline fading. If they cut too deep, if they scanned him too thoroughly, he'd had to do it. There was no time for politics or permission. The virus was in the coolant loops. Targeted RNA hijackers disguised to look like fungal spores, too subtle to be detected by standard scans, not lethal to aliens, only to humans. 4 crew had already collapsed, 2 died. The rest were coughing, feverish, hallucinating. So Jake did what nobody expected the maintenance guy to do. He overloaded the main stabilizer, bypassed the safeties, and manually vented the core. While everyone else screamed at the alarms, he locked the blast doors behind him. 20 seconds later, the reactor went critical. The biovirus, now aerosolized and incinerated. He hadn't planned to survive. And yet here he was, in a stasis cradle, staring at beings who couldn't fathom why a man with fractured ribs and a punctured lung was smiling like he'd just won the lottery. Two of the aliens began slicing away the edge of his rib cage to get better access to the collapsed lung. Jake grunted, vision flashing. "Easy," he murmured, "or you'll pop the secret prize." They paused. One tilted its head. "What?" Jake inhaled through clenched teeth. "There's a reason I'm still here, but it's not under P, for paranoia. Think more R for ribs." The lead surgeon, Dr. Vecnar, narrowed his gray eyes. "Translate that." "I think he means something is in his chest," the assistant said, hesitant. Vecnar waved for the scan device. An opaque wall of energy bathed Jake's torso. It highlighted dozens of anomalies. One stood out. Metallic object, unregistered, approximately 10 centimeters long, embedded in rib cluster 7. Jake coughed, blood flecking the biogel. "There's your mystery meat. Pull that out too fast, and you'll fry half your deck. It's rigged to a pulse trigger. You threatening us while dying?" "I'm warning you while dying. Big difference." Vecnar twitched. "You sabotaged your own station? You admit this?" "Had to. Bioweapon planted inside the cooling lines. We were all dead in a week, so I took the shortcut." The assistant glanced to Vecnar. "It fits. Human station logs show 4 fatalities before the explosion. Symptoms inconsistent with reactor exposure." Jake nodded. "Not radiation. A spliced pathogen. Customized. Human genome specific." The third alien finally spoke. "You should have reported it to the Alliance Council." "In no time, and the virus came from someone inside your alliance." That froze the room. Vecnar looked down at the scan again. "And the proof is in your rib?" Jake coughed again, a weak chuckle rising. "Yeah, you know the phrase, 'stick it where the sun don't shine'? Well, this was the next best thing." The operating room fell into a kind of suspended thought. Aliens who had dissected dozens of species, cured complex pandemics, and written books on non-humanoid trauma response now stood completely baffled by a single technician laughing through a ruptured chest, bleeding out, while revealing an interstellar conspiracy stitched into his own bones. And Jake, bruised and shaking, still had one final thing to say before the sedatives hit his bloodstream. "Tell your High Council to check the coolant shipments from Argol 3. That's where the virus started. And tell them—" His eyes flickered. "Next time, maybe trust the guy with the wrench." Jake passed out. Jake didn't wake gently. It was more like surfacing from a boiling sea, lungs filling with air that tasted like antiseptic and burnt metal. The lighting was dimmer this time. Colder, not surgical. He was in a different room. Smaller, quieter, and under observation. He wasn't floating anymore. He was flat on his back, wrapped in layers of pressurized mesh, and surrounded by machinery humming in frequencies he didn't recognize. The pain was duller now, managed by pharmacology far beyond human standards. But he could still feel the deep bruises around his ribs, the tight pull across his sternum. Every breath reminded him that recovery wasn't going to be fast. He turned his head slightly. A translucent barrier divided his bed from the rest of the ward. Outside it stood Vecnar, and a smaller, lime-green alien with a hunched frame and dark rings beneath its eyes. "They extracted it?" Jake rasped. The door hissed. The smaller one entered. No greeting, no preamble. "You were correct. The object embedded in your thoracic cavity contained encrypted human data and a full RNA profile of the pathogen you described." Jake blinked slowly. "The pathogen does not appear in any Alliance medical databases, nor any legal research logs. That alone is concerning." "No kidding," Jake murmured. "You found the marker tags on the pathogen genome?" "Yes. Argol 3 synthesis signature. Confirmed. Biolab designation 94 Kappa." Jake closed his eyes. Thought so. Vecnar stepped in then, arms folded. "That facility was decommissioned 20 years ago. Looks like someone forgot to lock the doors." The smaller alien, Dr. Henry, hesitated before speaking. We traced 3 coolant shipments from Argol 3 to Vega Station 9 over the last 4 months. All passed Alliance safety checks. Jake opened his eyes again, this time sharper. And how many of those safety checks were automated? Henry paused. All of them? He nodded grimly. There's your breach. Someone fed false clearance through the system. Henry's voice dropped. You understand what this implies? Jake coughed, groaning. Yeah, somebody inside your alliance wanted humans gone from Vega 9. Quietly. A virus that only triggers under reactor heat, targets human lungs, spreads through coolant mist. Neat, clean, deniable. Vecnar stared at him. Why not tell your command? Why sabotage the rig? Because command was already compromised. Jake snapped, the effort making him wince. We tried. They buried the reports, said we were hallucinating. Then ordered us to keep mining. I wasn't going to let 34 people die for a quarterly resource quota. Enrai looked down at the tablet in his hands. And you were willing to sacrifice yourself. Jake didn't answer right away. I was supposed to die, he said finally. Detonating the rig was my only move. I sealed off the crew quarters first, gave them a chance. Vecnar said nothing. Jake shifted slowly, grimacing. How bad is it? 2 fractured ribs no longer displaced. Right lung partially collapsed but reinflated. Minor liver lacerations. Muscle trauma along the left shoulder and upper back. Full recovery estimated at 9 to 12 weeks. Not walking out of here anytime soon. Yeah. A brief silence followed, broken only by the rhythmic whir of the machines. You're lucky, Henry said. Your body reacted well to our regenerative compounds. We've adapted more for your physiology since yesterday. Jake smirked weakly. Nothing motivates like an exploding mining rig. Vecnar didn't laugh. You said someone in the Alliance orchestrated this. That's a dangerous claim. Jake nodded. It's not a claim, it's in the data chip. Encryption tags match those used in Alliance Black Research backdoor keys. Black Research is prohibited. So's biological warfare. They stared at each other for a long time. Then Vecnar turned on his heel and left the room without another word. Jake let his head fall back, breathing through his nose. He'd planted the chip himself, had to wedge it between fractured ribs, wrapped in a heat-resistant polycoat with neural disruption foil so no passive scans could detect it. Had to time it just right, had to snap that rib during the blast. Getting it inside his own body while chaos unfolded around him wasn't easy. He'd screamed doing it. But it worked. They believed him now, or, at least, they had no choice but to investigate. An hour later, he was eating something bland and gelatinous when a new visitor arrived. Human, for once. Uniformed, tight-lipped. A woman in fleet blue. Internal security. Jake groaned. Oh, great! Bureaucracy shows up now. I read your report. What's left of it, she said flatly. Also read the data they pulled from your rib. You're either a suicidal lunatic or a hero. Little column A, little column B. Mercer sat in the chair beside his bed, crossing her legs. I've been chasing whispers about Argol 3 for months. Nobody took them seriously until now. Your move made waves. Jake sipped water. That was the idea. Mercer leaned closer. Do you know who in command was compromised? No names. But I know how they moved the coolant shipments. One of the tech managers signed off blind approvals every time his login was active during a leave of absence. Classic ghost credentialing. Mercer frowned. If what you're saying is true, this goes deeper than Argol 3. I'm saying check everything, not just the humans. Someone else had to authorize Alliance shipment routes. Someone not human. She looked at him carefully. You're suggesting treason, interspecies conspiracy. I'm suggesting somebody didn't want us out there, on the frontier. Maybe for political reasons, maybe something worse. A pause. Then Mercer stood. We'll keep this quiet for now. You stay here, recover. I'll take this to the council myself. Jake nodded. Try not to get exploded. Mercer half smiled and walked out. 3 days passed. Jake stayed on the Yakar Prime, recovering under the watchful eye of Vecnar and Enri. He wasn't allowed near any comms, not until the Council verified the data, not until Mercer came back. His ribs still ached like hell. He could barely stand more than 10 minutes without dizziness, but the humans from Vega 9 were alive. The virus hadn't spread. That was enough to let him sleep. On the 4th day, Vecnar entered the recovery bay holding a new data. The Alliance Council has acknowledged the validity of your claims. Jake lifted his eyebrows. That's their way of saying, oh no, we really screwed up, right? They are opening an inquest, quietly. High-level inquiries into internal shipping protocols and research remnants. Jake exhaled slowly. They want you to testify? Of course they do. Vecnar hesitated. The virus strain you identified is now classified as Xeno B312. It is under full lockdown, no further contamination detected. Jake nodded. Then, for the first time since the explosion, Vecnar added something unexpected. You did the correct thing, even if your methods were unconventional. Jake gave him a weak grin. You should see my day job. They brought him to the hearing in a pressure-stabilized gurney chair, legs strapped, ribs still taped. It was 8 days since the explosion. Jake was thinner, paler, and still couldn't lift his left arm fully. But he was lucid, coherent, and backed by 3 independent forensic teams who verified every byte of data extracted from his chest. The hearing chamber aboard the High Consulate station felt less like a courtroom and more like a zoological exhibit. 22 delegates representing 16 species, arranged in a semicircle that pulsed and clicked in colors, languages, and postures Jake couldn't begin to interpret. At the center, Counselor Relic, humanoid in structure, obsidian-toned with no eyes visible. Only a faint bioluminescent shimmer under her facial ridges. Jake's chair was positioned in front of her, facing a curved array of multilingual holographic panels displaying details from Vega 9, Argol 3, and the biological data samples labeled Xeno B312. None of the Alliance members looked at him with sympathy. Curiosity, perhaps. Suspicion, definitely. Counselor Relic began. Technician Jacob Landon, you are here not as a defendant, but as a witness to an extraordinary event involving loss of life, interspecies violation of bioprotocol, and what may constitute an act of espionage within Alliance operations. Do you understand the role you now occupy? Jake shifted slightly, trying not to grimace. Yeah, I'm the guy who got blown up and dragged into your trust issues. A few murmurs passed between representatives. Relic ignored them. Begin with your decision to detonate the mining rig. Jake inhaled. 4 of my team died. We didn't know what was killing them at first. No radiation, no visible contamination, but their lungs necrosis, hemorrhaging, rapid degeneration. And only the humans. I traced it back to coolant lines, recently refitted from an Argol 3 shipment. He nodded to one of the panels. That shipment came from a facility you claim is decommissioned. But I found traces of encoded biotags. Genetic markers used in pathogen development. One matched a sequence found in a banned research strain logged 12 years ago. Counselor Relic tapped a control. The panel shifted, revealing the genetic string comparison. Verified by 2 labs, 1 human, 1 Kralik. Jake continued, voice low but steady. We tried to report it, but someone in our own chain scrubbed the data. When that happened, I knew we'd been marked expendable. That's when I set the core to overload. Counselor Thrix, a Kaldari with an elongated neck and biometal carapace, leaned forward. You acted without authorization, destroyed valuable infrastructure. Jake didn't flinch. I saved 30 lives. The virus was heating in the reactor loop. Another hour and the miss would have gone system-wide. You don't get medals for hesitating. A pause. Then Relic asked, why embed the proof in your own body? Because any comms I sent could be intercepted. Any external storage would be scrubbed or discredited. But if I made sure the evidence would be discovered, only if I survived surgery. I figured, worst case, I die and you dig it out of me. Best case, I wake up and explain before someone covers it up. Fricks exhaled through spiracles along its side. You assumed a great deal of risk. I didn't assume. I planned for not making it out. For a long moment, no one spoke. Relic shifted her tone. We have detained 2 officials from Alliance Logistics. Both oversaw the coolant routing and shipment clearance. They're being interrogated now. Jake stared at her. Are they human? Ohm is Kralik, the other, Merlin. Neither were part of your station's command structure. Jake exhaled slowly. So this wasn't just a human faction trying to silence us. This was broader. Thrix tilted his head. You imply interspecies conspiracy. I don't imply it, Jake said. I lived it. Counselor Relic folded her hands. We must review your statements in greater depth. For now, your medical hold will remain. You will be under diplomatic protection until formal classification of this incident is complete. Jake frowned. That mean I'm a guest or a prisoner? Relic's gaze was unreadable. You are a witness, and witnesses must remain secure. 2 hours later, Jake was back in his recovery room aboard the Yacher Prime. His chair had been modified to keep his spine at 45 degrees, easing the tension across his healing ribcage. The stitches from his secondary surgery were still raw. The area where the data device had been removed was bruised yellow-purple, the skin warm under the dermal mesh. Dr. Henry returned with a nutrient tray. You performed well. Jake blinked at the understatement. Yeah, I nailed the whole survive public political trial while wounded thing. Henry didn't blink. You understand the attention on you now is not limited to the council. Jake raised an eyebrow. You mean someone's still trying to bury this? There are factions displeased by your survival. Surveillance measures have detected unusual activity in the subcom channels. Jake's jaw tightened. Tell me there's security on my door. There are 3, not including me. He nodded, then rubbed his temples. Any word from Mercer? Not yet. She is off channel. Jake's pulse quickened slightly. Mercer wasn't the type to vanish. If she was dark, it meant she was digging somewhere deep. A soft chime interrupted them. Vecnar entered, holding a sealed packet. This arrived encoded with internal clearance from your fleet intelligence. He placed it in Jake's lap and left without comment. Jake opened it carefully. Inside, a thumb-sized chip and a note. Mercer. For your eyes only, use external decryptor. Trust no one. Jake stared at it. Then he looked at Henry. I need an off-grid reader, non-networked, something old. Henry didn't question it. You'll have it by morning. That night, Jake didn't sleep. The pain was manageable, but the questions weren't. Why Vega 9? Why now? And if Mercer had found something too dangerous to transmit, then this wasn't over. Still, he hadn't come this far just to die quietly. The decryptor arrived just after dawn, a squat, analog beast with a rusted interface port that probably predated Jake's career. No wireless, no logs, no remote access, exactly what he needed. Henry handed it over without ceremony. Room will be isolated for 2 hours, air-gapped. After that, protocol resumes. Jake nodded, already feeding the chip into the reader. A dull whir kicked up, followed by a blinking blue light and a scrolling set of hex data across the small screen. Then Mercer's voice filled the room. Jake, this isn't a secure channel. This decryptor is coded to your bio ID, so I'll keep it brief. Argol 3 isn't dormant. It never was. Someone has been quietly funneling defunct research through black sites, embedding bioagents into supply chains, targeted, strategic, and deliberate. Vega 9 wasn't the first. It was just the first to fail. Jake's chest tightened, not with pain this time, with fury. The chip you carried confirmed everything. But what you didn't see, and what I now know, is that someone at the top approved this. High-ranking Myron Fleet Logistics Director Casal. He authorized the coolant reroutes months ago. We have the command keys. The screen flickered, then showed a short video snippet, grainy but damning. Casal's elongated silhouette stood before a star map, pointing at sectors and speaking in clipped Mirren. Subtitles confirm the worst. Containment unlikely if humans colonize the outer band. Accelerated biological deterrence remain the most plausible method of disengagement without open war. Jake's jaw clenched. So that was it. Preventive genocide. Quiet erasure before expansion could tip the power balance. Mercer's voice returned. I've already handed the data to 5 independent oversight cells. If I go dark, they'll publish it. Cassale's arrest will trigger a chain reaction. Be ready. The message cut off. No goodbye, no instruction. Jake stared at the screen for a long time. Then he reached for the wall console. Get me Vecnar, now. 10 minutes later, Jake stood, barely draped in a pressure suit and arm brace, bracing himself against the medical bed as Vecnar and Henri watched him. The virus was a tactic, a warning shot, Jake said, and it wasn't just sabotage, it was policy. Vecnar regarded him carefully. You have proof. Jake handed over the chip, encrypted to my reader. Audio-visual command logs. If you want to confirm it yourself, you'll find the Mirren command tags match those scrubbed from the Argol 3 shipping database you couldn't decrypt. Vecnar accepted the chip without a word and left to verify it. By evening, the Yakar Prime entered diplomatic lockdown. No ships left, no messages transmitted. The Alliance Council demanded an emergency convocation. 2 hours later, a transmission broadcast to every Alliance vessel within reach. Director Caseo was under arrest, charges pending, unlawful deployment of xenospecific bioweapons, conspiracy to subvert Alliance colonization mandates, and attempted species-specific eradication. Jake watched it happen from the med bay, propped against a bulkhead with a heating patch across his chest. He didn't cheer. Didn't smile. He just closed his eyes, breathing slow, shallow, careful. The next day, Mercer reappeared. She stepped into the room looking worse for wear, bruised lip, limp on one leg, arm in a sling, but standing tall. Told you I'd be back, she said, taking the chair next to him. Jake raised an eyebrow. You look like you fought your way through customs. Close. Had to burn 2 clearance levels and 1 favor I didn't even know I had. You got the bastard. We got 1 bastard. There'll be more. Jake exhaled. There always are. She handed him a slim folder. What's this? Discharge papers and a recommendation. He flipped it open, frowning. Fleet intelligence? They want you as a liaison, someone who knows how to smell sabotage before the suits even read the reports. I fix reactors, Jake muttered. Yeah, and when one broke, you fixed a bioconspiracy instead. Jake closed the folder. You think they'll let humans colonize the outer sectors now? Mercer leaned back. The council just rewrote 200 pages of policy in the last 6 hours. I'd say yes. Carefully, with oversight. He nodded slowly. Good. You're a symbol now, Jake. Guy who turned himself into a data mule, lit up a mining rig, and laughed while bleeding out. They've been replaying the surgical logs across 4 species' social channels. He groaned. Great. Just what I wanted. Interstellar YouTube fame. She smiled. The laugh scared them. They didn't understand it. Jake looked down at his side. The scar under the dermal patch itched like hell. I wasn't laughing because I liked it. I laughed because the worst thing that could happen already had, and I was still breathing. He paused. And because it was the only thing left that was mine. Mercer nodded, quiet for a moment. Then she stood. Ship leaves in 2 days. You're cleared to travel. Take the time, heal up. But when you're ready, come find me. There's more work ahead. Jake didn't argue. When she left, he looked around the medbay, cold, clinical, alien. He wouldn't miss it. 2 days later, he walked onto the transport ship under his own power. Slow, cautious, every step reminding him of what broke and what nearly didn't heal. He still needed another month before he could lift more than 20 pounds. The nerves in his side fired weird signals when he turned too fast. But he was alive. And for once, nobody questioned why. As the ship lifted, stars peeled across the view. Jake leaned back and whispered to no one in particular, "Next time, someone else gets to carry the damn evidence." And this time, he didn't laugh. He just smiled.